I bid you good day. I bid you welcome. Here is a subject that is near and dear to Gaia's heart, also near and dear to Gaia's body, for it is the subject of sacred sites themselves, which belong somewhat to you, to humanity. Well, and they have also been entrusted to the earth then, for the earth is still their guardian. For the most part, humanity is no longer the site's guardian. Now it has become its visitor. It may be the caretakers of the grounds or the gardens, but because it has lost its memories for the most part associated with these, it is no longer truly the guardian of the energies any longer. And it has been this way for quite some time. But there will be other opportunities to rejoin such thoughts. Now it is for you to visit and to you bring memories and new experiences. Interestingly, as you take yourselves to visit the most sacred places, and you go to drink or to receive the energies from them, in truth, it is the other way around. It is the sites themselves that receive you and receive your energies, for the most part, most of these lands and monuments are no more than figureheads now. But because your memories of them are still so important, you keep them alive. Without your interest in them, they would crumble, they would fall. But because humanity still cares deeply about these and about its history, because it still wishes to rewind the clocks and to understand what it is and who it is and why, particularly why, well, that keeps the energy of these very much alive. So it is you, sweet ones, that bring the energy here. It is you that bring the energy. It is you that bring the aliveness. And yes, you bring yourselves there in hope of remembering. So let us see how to assist you and how to assist the earth in the same process as we examine this very interesting topic. Now, what is a sacred site? Simply because a monument exists upon the earth, is it sacred? Not necessarily. So those things that are sacred, in essence, commemorate something. They commemorate an event. They commemorate the discovery of a truth. They commemorate a union that has come together. They are an acknowledgement of two different fields or understandings that have come together. So a monument, for instance, is not the same as a sacred site, though a monument could exist upon a sacred site. Monuments are dedicated to achievements. Sacred sites are dedicated to the discovery or the rediscovery of certain truths. In this case, the energy of the earth itself participates. The energy of a sacred site is in the earth itself. The monument, or what is upon the earth, or what has been created upon that land, that is the part that man has added. In other words, your energy is upon the monument or within it, and the earth's energy is upon the land or beneath it in some cases as well. So it is a combination of earth and human. That is what makes a site sacred. So in essence, you have made the site sacred as much as it appears to be there to receive you. A sacred site is not the same as a sacrificial site. This must be said at the outset as well. In other words, there are some monumental places where monumental events have taken place. Some of these, if you truly could recall them, would be horrific in their proportion. And if you truly knew or had access to see some of the events that have unfolded at sacred places, You would not be so interested to take yourself there. And that is one of the reasons why it is important that you do continue to go there, because with each movement of energy, there is more and more of an improvement in the place itself. It becomes, in essence, more neutral, more sacred. That is not true of all of the monuments that you see round the earth. So it is important that you do not think to yourself that everywhere is no more than death or destruction. However, because many of these monumental places have had a great deal of history and several different civilizations that have acted or participated with them in some way, well, you might imagine that at some point the rise and fall of the tides would affect these as well. The rise and fall of the tide of humanity as well, from times in which it has seen and felt itself to be great. It has been great to be one of man and mankind, at the rise and the rediscovery of great civilizations, and at times it becomes rather difficult as well. Know that any time that there has been sacrificial rites, meaning that lives have been sacrificed for an imaginary or greater purpose that has been invented or cultivated by any particular culture, these sacrificial rites have most often, almost entirely often, taken place at the close of a world, at the close of centuries, at the close or at the fall of civilizations from their glorious places, at the end of ages, during times of great famine and other difficulties, when there is a loss of war or a great loss of life. During these times, it seems that humanity's mind temporarily becomes overly obsessed with the laws, and it forgets the very laws of life, and it begins to obey an older mind that is no longer truly suitable. But here and there, it resuscitates itself. It re-emerges from the long and distant and sometimes darker past. If you will look at the very lives that you live now, if you will look and see that in almost every place now, in almost every country, and particularly more in others, there are what you would term suicide bombers, suicide attackers, and other bent on a certain kind of destruction in which they will take not only their life, but the life of others, to prove a pointless point or what it will be. Well, this is, as you might already know, the end of a great age, and in some ways the end or the fall of one civilization in hopes of building, rebuilding, and rekindling the next. So what you see about you now, you might call a modern sacrifice as well. There are lives being sacrificed without purpose. It is not the same as being at war. It is not the same as a battle. These are sacrificial rites, artificial, invented, purposeful or not. So you see, though you may look at the rites of passage of other great times and say how awful was what they did, it is important to look at your time as well, because always you will find similarities with one age or another. If you will find similarities with the greatness, for instance, with the technological age greatness that you live in now, you may attribute some of these as well to the Atlantean times, as you know. Well, indeed, they were grand and great, and many parallels could be drawn. Well, at the same time, you can look to see at some of the fall of that and what you know of it, that humanity became overly obsessed with who had what and who did not have what, and with the haves and the have-nots, and the divisions became so dear and so difficult that it began to separate man from man, brother from brother, and almost a kind of a civil war ensued as well. In this case, between different island nations, which all banded together in some ways against the great motherland of the greater part of Atlantis, which held all of the power and believed that it held all of the resources, you see? And so here then came a time of difficulties in who had what and why. So here is one example, a parallel that is drawn. Now, the topic still remains sacred sites, and the Atlanteans were builders of all things sacred and important, and were many other civilizations as well. So what makes a sacred site sacred in some parts is its ability to last. Its ability to last, if not intact in purpose. Its ability to be long-lasting, and as well to the human mind, or to the human ability to fathom. It is important that humanity does not see the where or the how this was created, and particularly when it has no history associated with what has been created, this makes the monument or the land more precious, more interesting, more important, more worth preserving, and what you term sacred then. Again, sacred becomes what you do not understand, what you wish to know. Many times its mega size, its megalithic size, its imposing ability to call to you, and so you respond to that call. There are many sacred sites within the earth as well. These are difficult to come by. They were a product of other civilizations as yet undiscovered, and they are part of your history as well. And you will come by them by and by, but it will be some time yet. For now, your concentrations are upon those that are upon the earth now, scattered as they are in the different directions, belonging to different civilizations and cultures, and attributed with different times upon the earth, or growth, or visitors to the earth as well. The less you understand about a certain place, the more sacred you consider it to be. The less you understand about how it was built, how impossibly it could have come together, the more sacred it seems to you again. Now, a sacred site also involves a certain kind of timeless energy, as has been said, brought together by both earth, by both the monument itself, and by something else, by a previous race, by a previous being, by other understandings, and this part is another mysterious essence which calls you forward as well. And this is what you must know regarding this. Most of the sites are indeed past versions of you. As much as you would like to say, oh, surely this must have been built by another race, because it is impossible for a human race to have built this. Well, it is impossible based upon what you know about your race now. But your memories have vague ideas of superhuman races. Yes, superhuman, and you were that also. Yes, you that are hearing these words now, you were upon the earth in ways that were superhuman, in bodies that were more than human, human plus, arranged in different ways, merged with other beings that are also human, but human from beyond the earth. We have had other discussions as well, saying that there are different kinds of humans. These are earth-based humans. Well, there have been times where earth-based humans have appeared different, a little bit different in form than you do now, a little bit stronger, a little bit taller, and yes, a little bit wiser than you are now. So you see, humanity has a way to invent and reinvent itself many different ways and many different times. And some of the earlier civilizations have been wiser and, yes, more advanced even than you now, simply because you see the raw material that has been used to put together a monument or place it somewhere sacred does not mean that the beings associated with it, you, the human beings associated with it, were less advanced than those of today. In other words, you cannot say, simply because you do not see a skyscraper made of glass, that these civilizations and beings were less wise or inventive or intelligent. Perhaps this is a fine time to say to you that your past is a little bit like your future, and your future may in fact be a little bit like your past. It is in fact as a very great nexus, a very great band of energy, a conveyor belt of energy, twists and turns and brings every possibility here and then there and then here again, and that you have been part of it all, and that it is not simply a linear progression of then to now, but it is past and present and future and present and past and future and present. That there are many different ways to arrange realities, dimensions, and densities. And that even as you look to the skies and wonder when your brothers from the skies will arrive, when your cousins will come, and when others of great magnitude and great importance and great intelligence will reveal themselves to you once and for all, you may discover that they are in fact versions of you, past and previous versions of you, future and next versions of you. And perhaps this is one of the most difficult concepts for you to understand, because almost everything in this moment seems as if it is past you, future to you, or outside of you. Your memories of yourselves do not allow you to think about how different you could have been, or how different the decisions that you made then could have been. And when you think in terms of your fall, or who or what fell from where, it is very difficult for you to think that the very beings that have advanced could somehow not have continued to advance. But you see, there are many different versions of you, different levels, different densities, different dimensional versions of you. And so many times it has been said, sweet ones, just how cared for you are, and just how you move and change and discover and become, and ascend and descend, and how many times a beautiful ladder up to heaven and down to earth has been described to you. But see how it is difficult for this concept to be applied in all things. So gently here and there you will note that I will add this thought to a variety of our conversations, interjecting them where it is allowed, where perhaps it fits best. And here, in this discussion, is one of those moments where it seems very appropriate. It would be well to speak of some of the specific sites, and small amounts of information could be given to you. For the most part, it is in your memories. It is in your memories, and how these monuments were in fact dedicated, and what were the uses for some of these as well. Most of them are missing, much of them, although you see much around that is intact, or what remains. Much of it belonged in other places and to other pieces or sculptures of it, and so you cannot quite imagine what else is missing there. Now, as to the pyramids of the Egypt, are they sacred? Well, the valley where it finds itself is sacred, yes. Not because it was built there. It was sacred at a certain time, At a certain time, it was simply a very modern place. It was a place of a lot of much activity that came and went, and came and went, and yes, into and from the skies as well. Yes, it was a port and a portal, a port of entry to this great land, and a port out of it as well, and a great landing port as well, and a great airstrip as well, and a great landing for much larger objects, much larger ships as well. And yes, they belong to others that have come to the earth of long ago, and perhaps in another discussion we will speak of that as well. But they also belong to you. For some of those of the earth had also then been taught how to use these, what they meant. And yes, great and within the Egypt, great and within the pyramids as well, there were other uses for much of the passageways that were there, and for different energies and for different movements and for different storings. When it comes to the great initiations that have taken place, or the great burial chambers, only a few of these could be noted as true burial chambers, for it was always known that those that would rob would take, and like that. And so there are many more yet undiscovered secret chambers in that land, for how those that were considered great were put aside. And these chambers, for the most part, still remain undiscovered. So are the pyramids then sacred? What makes them a sacred site? For the most part, as we said earlier, that you do not know how they were constructed, that they seem ever so much greater than you, that they seem too much greater in size to have been built in one lifetime and such. And so be it, sweet. There are some monuments, there are some aspects that do take longer than a life, and yet some lives were longer than others during that reign as well. There were some beings that lived 200 and even 400 years then, and there were others that had what you would consider a more normal lifetime. Anywhere between 50 and 150 years would be more normal during that time. So you see, during that reign, there were different kinds of human upon the earth. They looked rather similar, but not completely. And there were those, as always has been upon the earth, of lighter skin and darker skin, and of higher aptitude and lower aptitude, and those that would easily make war upon another, and those that lived for peace, and those that have lived for profit. For yes, the earth has always been a place for profiteers to take their profit, be it in resources or in what it would be. Of course, from Gaia's perspective, it is a place of wisdom, of knowledge. It is a place of heart and hearth. It is a place to discover love and compassion, and to grow accordingly. So a great man is one that loves greatly, and a great woman is one of deep compassion. And so humanity will come to know all of these again. If you will take yourself then and redirect your energies to those of the Peru, and to fly high over the beautiful and perfectly laid out lines of the Nazcan, there as well you would say, but how could a simple people build these, and why would a simple people build these, and how could they have had the technology to do so perfectly without first seeing them from the skies? Well, indeed, they were able to see them from the skies. They had the ability to triangulate certain points as well. Did they have assistance from this? Yes. Now, originally, these peoples did not have assistance of how to do all of this on their own. But as has been described to you, there were others living upon the earth in other great civilizations, and they made their way to the Perus in order to receive then as well, or trade for certain needed resources. And when these were received, then the Nazcans were given access to how to see from the sky, and how to pilot other craft that was far from their imagination. And some of them were accelerated in their minds and their abilities in order to create in a different way. It was also a time of great change and great endings and great upheavals and great earthquakes upon the southern continent at that time as well. And there was a great deal of fear in the peoples as well. And they were beginning to lose their mind, lose their memories, lose their ideas. And so those that came to assist or to preserve showed them how to make certain projects, if you will, goodwill projects of goodwill and good light. And so with the assistance of those on the ground and others from above the ground, they were able to triangulate great abilities then to make monuments with what the material was they had. The ability to make laser-like lines from the sky onto the ground, imprinting images that were very important to them, symbolic images, magic images. And what they were hoping to produce then was the kind of magic that would, in essence, just like a sacrifice, instead appease the earth gods by showing to them great symbols with great care and great meaning, and how they were wanting to evolve and wanting to care for the earth and redirecting their energies and learning very, very quickly. So it employed a public works project that employed many, many different peoples, again, of different lands and different cultures, bringing them together. But remember, as has been said, every civilization has a rise and has a fall. There is not a time on the earth where there has been one that would rise and fall and then rise again. And when it rises again, that is when it truly learns. That is the step forward. That is the step in the new direction or the far direction. And then, when these civilizations then will build or acknowledge a site dedicated to what they have learned, that is what makes it sacred. So a sacred site requires then the third aspect, which is man's learning. It is not simply that it builds a monument to the sky or to the stars or to the gods or to those that have come before it or who have taught it. What makes the ground itself sacred, as well as that which is built upon it, is when that civilization or those beings have them risen, fallen, and risen again. You see, it is the second rising or the third becoming, because that is the birth of wisdom. That is the birth of truth. And that is what takes you to the sacred sites. That is why you visit there and bring your energy there and hope to remember and hope to revive these within you, because there is a knowingness now that something is missing, that the third possibility, the third needed energy, it is missing, it is needed. It is the one missing molecule, the one missing idea, the missing link. Yes, it is this, the missing link that joins your past to your future, and you are now in the present, wanting to link it all together. So a sacred site is that which has learned or relearned from itself. It is not a monument built to the gods. It is an understanding. It is what one says when they say, now we know, or now we understand. It is not simply where one is buried or when one lays down weapons. It is not always then a calculation based upon an angle to the sun. However, yes, there are those that can be measured to a specific day, a specific time, and there are some that can be used as great calendars, but not to the sky of today. You have become very accustomed to seeing one certain sky, one certain understanding of it with the same heavens. But I tell you that the heavens have changed many times over, and though there are stars that you are accustomed to seeing for a very long time, there are a few missing now, and there were a few added at other times as well. And some of these monuments, some of these sites are dedicated to these stars. Now, did they receive assistance from other beings? In some cases, yes, not in all. Sometimes the assistance had already been upon the earth for a very long time. It is not simply that came beings from space and said, "Look, now we are here, and now we will take from you or give to you or teach you or help you, and here is how to build a pyramid in a very different way than you have done yet." No, not necessarily at all. Some of this knowledge had already been with humanity for a time, but there was no dedication to that monument. Now, in some cases, those stone-like elements that appear to fit oh so closely, oh so perfectly together, and how could primitive man have done that? Well, in essence, we have answered that. Not all men are primitive. And the past, because you consider it the past, because it was here before you were here, is not necessarily the past. So in some cases what appears to be the past is also your future in some way. So if you see the monument now, you would be able to place yourself in the future and recreate it again. It is a little bit like memorizing a sketch or a photograph and then taking yourself elsewhere and reproducing that same idea or that same photograph. You have the ability to do that. Some of those upon the earth, some of those humanity ones now, have also made their home elsewhere upon other worlds. And yes, some of the monuments or places that were built were to remind one of the other places that they have been and that they have known. Sometimes these are sacred as well. Sometimes they are a little bit like photo albums, something that makes one feel a little bit like home, a reminder from home. For instance, if you would take yourself from Europe to the Americas and then be well accustomed to a certain style of construction or of furniture or of decor, you may choose to reproduce that where you are. Why? Because it makes you feel comfortable. It makes you feel like home. You feel a little better. You sleep a little better. It is a creature comfort or like that. Well, there are larger versions of that as well. So here is yet another way to understand some of what has been made. So yes, in terms of those stone-like sculptures, it is not as difficult as you might imagine to cut these with a precision, even with something that is more perfect than a laser, even with something that simply cuts through anything, stone included, because if one does not see stone as something that is dense or thick, it is a lot easier to cut. If stone becomes something else in the process and then can reassemble itself as stone, it is also not dense and not thick, and so it can be reassembled in a much simpler, a much lighter version. But even the heavier forms of stone, yes, you need not drag and pull much and from far and far away. They can simply be transported by light. Transported by vehicles of light that can remove the density from something and then to assemble it without its density and then return it to a form. You see, from the pyramids themselves, they were not always this dense. As the earth has changed and found itself in a more and more dense atmosphere and essence, then the pyramids themselves have become more dense as well. The more dense they became, the more form-fitting or close-knit they became, and the same is true of the stones themselves. Now, perhaps you have also heard it say that some of the pyramids have been built from top down, not from bottom up. And that is true of some of them as well. Not all of them, but some of them. It is not any more difficult to build from top down than from bottom up. It is simply that humanity of earth is accustomed to then building or climbing a staircase up. Well, it is not so very difficult to come down a staircase instead of up, so it is simply a concept that is employed or that was understood at another time. This understanding then allows one to make for oneself. We would then make ourselves into another reality, and there would come the next change again. So, sweet ones, comes about then changes to discoveries, changes to those things that are sacred and sacred sight-like. And as these discoveries continued to uncover themselves, humanity began to name them, to label them, to consider them of one God or another. And of course those that did not know or did not understand made them even more God-like. Some of those things that you consider then sacred or sacred sites are simply those that were not dedicated well, or were not completed, or were not attributed well to how they were constructed. And so still they remain nameless and a little bit without complete form, and a little bit without all that can be understood and put together. Now then, we continue to explore. How can you use a sacred site today? Well, understand that you are as sacred as they are. Understand that your physical form is also a sacred site, a living form of life, dedicated to its evolution, dedicated to knowing and knowledge and compassion and discovery. If, when you take yourself to any living place, you will bring your own living energy, then you will benefit by it more, and the site itself will benefit by you as well. It does not need your memories. It does not need what you can remember, or even your offerings, though you may bring these if you will. But for the most part, what is most important then is for you to bring about your awareness, the I know, or I wish, or I discover aspect. Utilize this. Utilize your energy with the earth, always combining. You need not give anything to the site, and you need not take anything. But if you bring and take, give and receive, so much better will your experiences be, and you will find yourself then truly guided, not only in that moment, but more than likely what you will take from there is how to use that energy in your particular life now. How to use that sacred light, sacred form, sacred truth from the land and from what is built upon the land, from the thought form and the idea, from the creative resource to the source that is you, so that what you can expect then is not simply a little bit of history, a guided tour of what may or may not have been. What you can take is something that is much more exclusive than that, something that involves well-being, knowledge of, if you like, the king or the queen within, the knowing, the crown, the one that has learned, the one that has gone beyond, the one that has known and is still present upon the earth, not the simple one who is going to learn, and like that. It is possible that as you take yourself to these lands, you may have triggers or ideas, or what you have been, or how you have been there before, or in what way it may serve you. It is highly possible, if the land itself still contains its charge, its electromagnetic charge, then you will still take to yourself something from here. Still, you may interact with it. You see, it is the land itself, and it is what you bring there that may still be alive. But I remind you here, and it must be said, that as much as you will take yourself to those places and those sacred valleys and monuments that you do not quite understand or cannot quite remember, are larger than the scope of space and time and history recalls, the simplest of places, the simplest mound, the simplest curve, the simplest moment in your own private moment, that is sacred as well. There is nothing more sacred than an idea. There is nothing more sacred than a heart connection. There is nothing more sacred than the union between man and woman, between masculine and feminine energies, between that which combines and comes together, between that which sees the future as that which is blessed and that which understands that the past has all been reconciled. This, too, is sacred and is a monument to life itself. Why? Because you can prove that it is still living. It is the living word, sweet ones. This is what will always draw you. And when you take yourself to these sites, that is what you wish to know. What is living here still? Where are the gifts? Where is the part that is still alive? You wish to know if the site itself is in joy. Yes, you wish to know what its purpose was and what took place there. But it is more than that, because you can see that as much as you have been told, oh, this one was for sacrifice and this one was for ceremony and such, it is not simply the information that drives you to return and to return again. Oh, it is so much more than that. It is the living energy. It is life beyond life, life before life and life after life that calls to you again and again and again. A question that was put, are there any other beings or spirit beings that are stuck in these particular places? No, not particularly, sweet ones. There are very few and less ghosts at these places, particularly now when they are so busy and overrun with humanity wishing to participate with them. It may surprise you that ghosts, if they were present here, particularly prefer silence and quiet. They are attempting to find rest. They are attempting to clear themselves and to find their way back to where they know that they belong. So a very noisy community of humanity, enjoying and experiencing what it considers to be a sacred vacation or adventure, is not so conducive to those other energies, whether or not you would think of them as positive or negative. For the most part, those that have built these monuments, once they have moved from beyond them, they have moved from beyond them. And for instance, those that are still interested in them, well, they are you. Remember, I told you that you are the ones that have built these, and so you are the ones that are visiting them. It is a difficult subject to consider, and yet it is true, and I tell you again that it is true. If you will take yourself here into these lands, are there benefits? Are there activities? Are there reasons for you to take yourself there? Well, perhaps yes. Perhaps yes, and particularly at this time. Again, I tell you, it is the close of an age. It is the close of an important age, and all that you can recall to memory or to experience or to adventure, those memories that you have now, closest to the end of time as you know it, they will be at the forefront of others. It will be what you remember, what you recall, and what you can draw upon. And what magic remains in these places, what memories of time ago and time altered remains in these places, you will take that. You will take that with you. You will have it, and you will be able to participate with it. And so when you visit in these places, do more than visit. Claim it. Claim what you were. Claim what you will be. Not in a touristic way, not in a historical sense, but in a true energetic way. drink it and have it and be a part of it and say, I was this and I was the other. This was me. This was I in this life. And together with others, I built this. I knew this. I lived here. I saw this. Because if you will take yourself there and now, you will remember the places that you will take yourself, particularly now and during the great time of changes. They are very and very important to you. Are there ideal times to visit? No, not particularly. It does not matter as much now if you believe that a place was dedicated at a solstice and you wish to take yourself there at the same time. Well, so be it. If you will take yourself there during that time, then let it be. But it is not necessary, for the skies have changed since then, and you have changed since then, so it will not impact the time of your visit at any particular site. Is one stronger or weaker than another? Again, it will depend upon you. If you have more of an association with Egypt than with the Maya, you will feel more energy there. If your association of a very important ritualized event or ascension or initiation moment came from another land or place, that one will seem more vital to you and you will be more drawn to visit there. Is one more important, or must you visit all of the great wonders of the earth or all of the great sacred sites? No, not necessarily, but here and there, and once or twice or thrice in a lifetime, then yes, take yourself there. Take yourself and marvel. Take yourself and wonder. Wonder at what you are and how you are arranged, and like that. For here I tell you that it is worthwhile, and you will see that the worth is strong and stronger for you. Already we have spoken of who and what built these, and whether you could consider that they were assisted and built to you and for you by those of alien people. Not necessarily, though there has been help from these peoples, yes. They are your cousins, they are your brothers, they are you. And it will astound you when you do come from them the great memories that you will say, I know. I have a strange feeling of knowing or having participated. Once you have the meetings and the knowings, it will not seem as strange or as foreign to you as you believe that they are now. Now, of course, some of these were built to certain deities, as you have seen, and some of these deities appear in their own way to have been from beyond the earth as well. Well, some lived upon the earth for so long that they came to appear or resemble humans as well, and others would come and go in their own way. So a deity, then, is simply one who has done in their own way good works for humanity, or those that have been true leaders. You see, some of those that you consider to be deities, they were not truly gods. They were simply leaders in difficult times. And so humanity remembers this. It is not the same thing as you would recognize now one of your generals or one of your presidents or chairmen or like that. These were true leaders, true inspirers of men, true bringers of ideas, true committees that were put together to build civilizations, to implant truths and seeds, and so much more. So yes, at times you have considered these deities, and so be it. Perhaps it is well for you to consider them this. And yes, ceremonies were dedicated to them, for humanity has always created ceremonies, and even without exception, this is true as well. Now, in terms of those of inward cities and the monuments or the dedications or the sites within the earth as well, yes, these exist also. There are, in fact, cities, a few of these rather intact, and some in use now already, that would be considered by you sacred, because they are so perfectly also carved that is also a sign of a very advanced race. You see, the ability to take a very dense object such as stone, or a very large or a very tall object, to move it, to build with it, to place it in a very strategic way. This is a sign of a very advanced race, not a past race. So it is difficult for you to contemplate again that something from your past could have been something so advanced, but it is so, and it will be again. Allow yourself to think of all things as moving in a spiral, in a circular motion that will take you to and from all of this, so that you will remember so very, very much. In terms then of how the sacred sites are being affected at this time, whether they are being affected by Gaia or for Gaia at this time of transition, well, it can be said that the earth is very active now. It can be said that there are great truths surrounding some of these that may come forward, and others that may become lost for time as others begin to come forward or interest moves to other places around the globe. Perhaps we'll say to you that if there is an opportunity to take yourself to here or to there, a place of interest to you, then perhaps it would be well during now, during the end, during the beginnings of all of life, to say, I have taken myself there, and I have seen and I have known, and I have danced in the light of that earth, of that time, even as I receive the new light of the new earth and the newer truths. There is the possibility that based upon all of the upheavals associated with the 2012 and more, that some may be placed off and away limits to you for a time, not for the all-time or the always, but for a time. It may be said you cannot visit now, or you may come back next year, or there is only room for one and not for the other. So take into consideration where you wish to be and what you wish to know. And you may ask Gaia as well, in any of the times and places where you visit, to say, assist me, Gaia, as well. Remind me of what was. Tell me of what is today. Let me dance in the light of all that existed here before. Let me know in the knowledge and in the love and in the compassion of what I was and how I was, and show me and tell me and align with me and bring to me. But most of all, sweet ones, most and most of all, take yourselves and create your own sacred lineage. Your own purpose is enough to make you and what you are sacred. Take to yourself that which is pure, and take that too, the sacred valleys and the sacred places, and the simple monuments and the grand ones alike. Celebrate with the elders that are there, with the ancients that are there, with those that came before you and those that will come beyond as well. Celebrate with those who know and those who have been, with the greatest teachers and with the greatest builders, and then number yourself among them and say, I too was here, and look, I am back again. I am still here. I am still learning. I am still discovering. I am still teaching. I still seek wisdom. I have gained a great deal, and now I seek more. When you take yourself here, do so in simplicity. Do so in humble ways, in simple ways. There is no need to dress yourself in great ceremonies or in great wantings. Follow the lead of those who have gone before you. Drink in simple ways. Make your offerings very, very simple as well. The grandness of life is what you are. The breath of life is what you are. The flower and seed of life is what you carry. And so what else to take or to bring from these places is but a simple truth that says, I am, and I am still, and I am still here, and I am still that, and I am still willing to receive, to learn, to be. So dedicate your simple truths to the earth and to the heavens and to the continuity of all of life, to all of the beings that have and have ever been, to all of those that have given their life or taken a life, to all who have learned and gained in initiation, and to all who have lost or suffered or failed at initiations. Remind yourself of that too, and resurrect yourself. Most of these places have at least somewhere associated with a rebirth or a resurrection or a calling forward again. Call forward your own self, as if it were an echo from long ago. You are looking for yourself that is moving into the future. So be it. There is also another self of yours from the past. Join these together, and you will see that the sacred among all of these places will do just that. It will join together truths. It will place pearls on a string back together in just the right graduated order, so that you will understand your progression in your lineage and what you were and how you were and what you will be. That is the purpose of what remains upon the earth. They are always teachers, but now you must note what they truly have to teach, not simply what a simple one on a guided tour will take you. So perhaps here we have Gaia's guided tour, and where you would take you, I would guide that process too. I will serve for you as instructor, as teacher, but as always I will ask, plead for a more open mind, a more open heart, a more compassionate desire for the simplest of all places and the deepest of all truths. I bid you good day.